There we go. Okay, we're live. All right, so welcome to the first quick hits. So this one, you'll notice that we're missing our third member, Arun. It's just myself and James today, and we're gonna keep it under about 30 minutes. Originally, the plan was to record everything and then edit and release it. Unfortunately, today we've had some issues with the software between everything with my computer being stupid again to Max not liking very much to download XSplit. So we're gonna work on that later, probably after this one's actually recorded. If you guys are listening on here, feel free to tweet me questions. I have the rOilers podcast Twitter open. Otherwise, we have the thread going. I'm probably not going to check that as much, but feel free to tweet. Send me a tweet.
Okay, so what do you want to start off with here?
How about the Tampa Bay series? Let's go with that one. So obviously, right now, actually, I'll check the score. I think it was last time I checked, it was 2-1. So, and that's a final actually. So Tampa Bay or Chicago takes four. Sorry, I can't count. Game four. Series is tied at 2-2. So going in, I think we already picked our favorites. I think I said the Rangers originally, the Ducks, which I was completely wrong. Whatever. I think you said you wanted Tampa Bay to win.
Yeah, I wanted Tampa Bay to win. I didn't necessarily think that they were going to win. I think when push comes to shove, Chicago will still win, but I want Tampa Bay to win for sure. There's no question about that one. I'd love to see Stamkos get a cup, so that's how I'm feeling about that.
How many games do you think it'll take?
7. I think it'll
Seven,
go.
seven games.
Yeah, I think since it's already tied 2-2,
Mhm.
and I mean, there's not a whole lot to pick from between the two teams. I mean, Tampa Bay could be up 3-1 if what's his name hadn't royally messed up in game one. Brown, something Brown, I forget his first name, but man, he messed up bad.
Yeah, no, I think we could be maybe we could cheer for Tampa, but honestly, I think Chicago is probably to take this one, the series. They're so good. And they've already come down from back down 2-1 like they did against Anaheim, against arguably a better Anaheim team. I think the Ducks were deeper. I just think the Blackhawks are a great playoff team, and I don't know, like they tied it up today at home, and they're going to carry momentum, and I think it'll go Chicago in 7 as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Chicago in 7. It's weird saying like 7 is likely or a safe bet. I mean, these
It's
are
a
two
close
great.
series.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, talking about the playoffs, it's obviously been what, nine? It's the nine years this year that we've been in the playoffs. So 2006. We talk about Pronger's dominance that season. We talk about Rolison dragging the Oilers into the playoffs. If
yeah.
if the Oilers had won Game 7 of the 2006 Stanley Cup playoffs, who would your Conn Smythe pick be for the playoffs?
Uh, Coin flip. I mean, Pronger. Well, geez, 3-sided coin. Okay, let me think here. Because Pronger, Rolison, and then I somehow forgot about him, but Fernando Pisani as well. If I had to pick one, I guess it would be Pisani because he scored a ton of really clutch goals that year. But Pronger was an anchor on defense. He scored almost a point per game, and up until he got injured in Game 1 of the finals, Rolison was phenomenal. But Pisani, yeah, he really earned that contract. Let me tell you what.
Oh,
I think after that playoff run, he got signed to like a 3 or 4 year extension worth $3+ million a year, and he's a good loyal soldier, but really he never lived up to that contract too much. What about you?
um, I think for me, I mean, we have to consider the fact that Rolly got injured in game one. And I think if Rolly hadn't gotten injured, we probably A would have won the series, and B, he would have won the Conn Smythe hand down, because Conn Smythe is obviously for the playoffs MVP. And Pronger was good all season and good the entire playoffs. But Rolison was absolutely unfreaking believable in the
Yeah,
playoffs. And
good.
I think that's for me that puts it over the edge. But since he did get injured and taking that into account, and for game one, had we gone to game 7, I think it has to be Pronger, because the fact the series was even still close after we had Markstrom and Conklin playing, I think it was just Conklin, sorry, it was just like it was still impressive as hell. And I love Pisani, but I think Pronger or Rolison. If Rolison doesn't get injured, it's Rolison. If he can't take into account he is injured, then it's Pronger.
I don't remember why, or I don't know why I remember this, but I remember Rolison got injured in game one, and then Conklin was the backup, and then he lost the game. He lost game one, and then people were saying like, well, why did he dress? Because McTavish was saying that Markkanen was going to start the rest of the way,
Yeah,
and Markkanen did start the rest of the way, and people were like, well, why did Conklin even dress? Like, why was he the backup in the first place? Like, I don't know why I remember that, but that stands out in my mind very, very, very well.
all that stands out in my mind is a puck going behind the net and
Yeah.
going. And I blacked out for the rest of the season. I don't know. Nothing happened after that.
Or was it the 06 Cup winner?
Well, actually, speaking of Pisani, there was the report from Sportsnet today that mentioned that he would be interested in joining the Oilers on a bench. So this kind of goes along with the next point too. Do you think Pisani would fit well on the Oilers bench?
I don't know anything about Pisani and his coaching. Doesn't he? Isn't he's an assistant coach with Canadian University hockey now?
Was it U of A?
I
U of A Golden Bears. Yeah.
From what I remember, he still lives in Edmonton. So, going from a CIS assistant coach to an NHL coach is too big of a jump, in my opinion. I'm not really interested in having him around. And man, it sounds really harsh to say it all like this, but it's just such a turning point, rounding the curve here for the organization. I want to put the old boys club behind us, and I'm just not interested in having him around. I think that McClellan and Cicerelli are gonna put together a really good squad here for coaching and management, and he's not gonna be part of it.
We're never gonna let Arun live that down, are we?
Really won't. No. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, I haven't.
You know what?
Anything about his coaching ability? I haven't heard from him in quite a while.
Part of it was I had made the point in the thread too. I think that like if we look at it, part of the issue for me at least right now in that we're getting rid of the old boys club, and that's good. That's great. They're not in management position anymore. But then you have nobody that really knows the players, nobody that knows the organization, nobody that knows the culture. I mean, culture is indefinable at some point, so it's kind of hard to justify picking a coach on culture. But part of it for me is that Pisani knows the players. He's been living in Edmonton for years, and it's not exactly infrequent that old players go on to coach. And Pisani is one of those players that could potentially be a good coach, and he brings the past knowledge, the prior knowledge of the team and everything else. But I don't know. Like it's that conflict where it's like, do you bring somebody back and risk them having the old mentality that McTavish and them had and potentially harming a team, although he's not going to be in charge, really, or is it that you let you go completely clean slate, and that's kind of where the division lies for me. And I don't know if I go with Pisani as coach. I love him as a player, and I love what he did with the community. I love that he does all those ulcerative colitis advertisements, and he's great. He's a great guy all around, but I don't know if I'd pick him as a coach right now. Maybe if he had more experience in the AHL or WHL, but not right now.
Yeah, I agree. If he pays his dues in the dub or in the American Hockey League for a while, then maybe at some point down the road. But right now, I am super comfortable giving that a hard pass.
Yeah, I don't think we lose anything major by not picking him.
No.
So now, speaking of coaches, there was the rumors that Nelson was obviously potentially it started out this week where Nelson was potentially going to be an assistant coach with McClellan. At least that's what it looked like. He said that they were discussing with McClellan. They wanted him back. There was kind of that, and now all of a sudden, in the last couple of days, we've gotten to the point where McClellan's getting contacted by the Grand Rapids Griffins, the Charlotte Checkers, and what was the other team? Pittsburgh's. Can't remember something Penguins. Pittsburgh's Rockford
I thought
Penguins.
they were
Sorry,
like the I can't even remember.
Rockford, I think.
Rockford Ice Hogs or something.
Oh yeah, something like that. But so with I mean, with that in mind, those three are now interviewing him.
Mhm.
Does he go to the Oilers? Does he go to them? What do you think?
I can see him going to either any one of them, really. I mean, Nelson, it's pretty clear that he wants to steer his own ship. He has what a lot of people might not know is that he's already spent time as an assistant coach in the NHL. He was an assistant coach with the Atlanta Thrashers a few years back. So he's got
Mhm.
experience as an assistant coach already. And, I guess he's decided that he's not willing to quote unquote settle for being an NHL assistant coach and he wants to be a head coach. So I think that if the opportunity presents itself and he likes the chance, he's probably gonna go. And I don't blame him. But there's only so many head coaching positions available. So if he doesn't get an assistant coach with Bakersfield, which should be on the table, you would think, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever to see him go.
I think yeah. With I know with me that if I was him, you have to kind of evaluate your options, right? It's kind of like okay, you have a
Mhm.
contract with OKC, but now you have a coach McClellan that has a 5-year contract that is a really good coach that spent the last decade with another team. So
Mhm.
obviously he doesn't get replaced very easily. Then you look at Pittsburgh; they're potentially going through a potential rebuild down the road, depending on how next season goes. They just hired a new coach. You don't know how that's going to go. There's Carolina, which has been in full rebuild like the Oilers for the last I don't know how many years. They've still awful, so they could their coach could potentially be fired before the end of the season, depending on how they do. Then
Yeah.
there's um, then there's Detroit, and Detroit's kind of that one where I think they have the outside shot at Nelson, but not the best of the three because I
Yeah.
mean they just hired Blaze Hill, and if he's gonna follow in Babcock's footsteps, there's no freaking way he leaves anytime soon.
No,
So
well, there's absolutely no chance of that happening.
yeah, no. So I think what happens is Nelson, like you said, takes command of his own ship and goes probably I'm gonna say to Carolina because he got interviewed there last time. The organization knows him, and
Yeah.
if he wants a good job, whereas chance he has to coach NHL and stay at the NHL level, that's probably the best bet.
I mean, obviously, I wish him well, but I think it
Yeah,
would be nice if he stayed. I
it.
don't know.
Oh God, Todd
Players,
Squared is still a pipe dream.
you know.
Yeah. All right.
Uh,
So
so yeah,
moving on slightly.
you want to
Uh,
see the coaches section with like the assistants getting fired, or
yeah. So I can't remember what day it was. Was it last week? Was it Thursday or Friday?
it was about a week ago now. Yeah, almost
Yeah.
a week ago.
Acton and Ramsey
Um,
got fired. What do you make of
yeah,
it?
I I don't know. I'm not surprised. Like put it bluntly. I think that they were not surprised either. I don't know. Like the writing was on the wall with that sort of thing. I mean, they're cleaning house, replacing the GM and the head coach and all that. So I think that it is. I think it's a positive move. I think it gives McClellan a fresh slate to work with, and yeah, honestly, I'm a fan of it. I think I was a bit surprised. Ramsey, he was only with the team for 1 year, and about a year ago, when he was hired as an assistant, a lot of people were hailing that as a good move because if Eakins were to stumble out of the gate, then he would get fired, and then Ramsey, with his experience and respect and all that other stuff, would have been an ideal candidate to slide right in there behind him and take over the head coaching role. That never happened for whatever reason, but I don't know. At the time, that's what people were thinking, and that's what I was thinking was going to happen. But now that they're fired, it's like, well, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
I'm
Sorry.
no,
I,
go ahead.
I
I'm
think I
done.
think
I rambled.
for me it was like that whole thing where Leaf fans were saying that you'd be amazed if Acton somehow you wouldn't be amazed if Acton stayed around because he just has this ability to avoid getting fired, and so it was kind of like him being gone was I guess it's kind of that thing where Shirelli and Nicholson want to get rid of the Eakin stench. I guess you could say just pretty much get rid of everything. But then we still have can't remember his name. The the third assistant coach is still there. So I think that it's
Steve,
cleaning house. Sorry,
Steve Smith, is that who it is?
maybe to be honest, I don't, as sadly as it is, I don't know the assistant coaches as well as I should. But for Ramsey, I was a little surprised Ramsey got fired because he's only been here for a year, and I guess Acton hasn't been here over like too long.
He was there for 2 years, so that's not very long either.
He came in with Eakins though, which is why I think partially why he's probably gone.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll see. Other than that, I don't like the problem for me is I don't know who else would replace them. Like we see Nelson, he's potentially not coming back. We heard about Pisani being interested, but I think that's almost as much just a Sportsnet or score reporter that decided to talk to him, and he said, "Yeah, I'd be down." Like asked, like, "Oh, would you coach your Oilers given the chance?"
Yeah.
So, and I mean, no one's gonna say no from the Oilers organization. You could ask Smitty if he wants to coach. He'd probably be like, "Yeah, of course," but that doesn't mean they're going to coach. I don't know. Like, I don't know who would be potential assistant coaches. I think
I don't know. Like, I don't know assistant coaches around the league very well. I'm like, head coaches, huh? Who's gonna be fired from a head coaching position and come and take an assistant coaching job in Edmonton? Yeah, that's a really short list.
Yeah,
I don't know
no,
to do that.
I don't think.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know who it's going to be. It could be. God, what about Guy Boucher? Where is he at these days?
Guy Boucher, I think he's unemployed at the moment. Wasn't he like, or he's coaching in the Dub? I'm not sure. I don't know.
Actually, yeah, wasn't that? Didn't you get hired to coach Major Junior somewhere?
You know what? I'll look that up. As long as you can start ranting on the next topic, which is Slepyshev.
I'm gonna sidestep that one. Miller and Hunt. That's what I'm going.
Oh, right. That's actually good. We'll bring that. We'll come back to that one.
So you'll have to excuse me 1 minute here.
Hunt. They were signed to each 1 year.
Yeah, they are. They're both going to be 27 by the time this next season starts. Miller led OKC in points as forward. Hunt as a defenseman. Hunt got his. He was a first-team AHL All-Star this past year. So Hunt, at the AHL level, he's top-notch. These solid signings for depth. I don't anticipate Miller getting any time really with the Oilers next year unless we get absolutely devastated with injuries. But Hunt can be maybe a decent call-up. I think he's probably one of the first to get called up. It all depends where Nurse ends up and how Marincin and Davidson start off next year. But I think Hunt will get some time with the Oilers. Overall, though, they're definitely show-me contracts, for lack of a better word. I think they're only 1 year long each, you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 1 year each. So it's like, you got to do exactly what you did this season in order to get another contract, and they'll just string them along from year to year, and that's what it is. Like their depth signings, that's it. So,
well, Brad Hunt, is he right-handed or left-handed?
I'm not
Brad
sure.
Hunt he shoots if this page would ever load.
He's an undersized offensive defenseman with a cannon of a
Shoots
shot.
left.
Shoots left. Okay, so
He's not a left defenseman. So for me, what it is it's more of a thing where it's like you said, it's a show me contract. But for me, for Hunt, it's more of it's almost just filling out the AHL roster. Like Miller could compete for the team, but he'd be pushing it. Like you'd have to really push for the team. Hunt is not going to come anywhere close to NHL because if you look at it, I mean the next prospect we'd bring up would either we have Oshley, Simpson, Davidson, Nurse now who's going to be in the AHL. Like unless he makes a big club,
take him for sure. Yeah, or he should.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So there's no way in hell that that Hunt I think gets called up before him. So he's more or less just a veteran AHLer at this point, and Miller is just I think going to help the AHL and then can be a call up if injury strikes, which I mean they will eventually. And then there's Roy not being resigned.
Yeah, I'm not surprised again, but I'm a little disappointed. I mean, Yakupov had a bit of a resurgence when he was playing with Roy, so that's a little bit disappointing to see. But I mean, coming into next season, we've got Nuge, RNH, Lander really came into his own, kicking around, so they're fine. Not fine, but they're getting a lot better down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully Yakupov can just carry his play forward with whoever he's playing with. Probably, God, I don't know who he's going to be playing with. To be honest, maybe Lander.
I think
Because
McDavid.
yeah, either Lander or McDavid. It really depends. I don't think McDavid's going to be relied upon to play any sort of defense, and Yakubov doesn't play any sort of defense. So I don't know if they're going to put them together, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough to say. But yeah, I'm fine with it. Like he's not part of the long term plans here with the Oilers, and I'm sure that he knows that. Um, and even if he was re-signed, it would have been like a 1 year, $1 million deal. Trade him at the deadline for a conditional seventh sort of thing. He's better than a seventh round pick, but at the same time, like he's not going to get anything more than that, and he's not part of the long term plans, like I said. So whatever.
Yeah. I know. For me, it was a disappointment. I mean, kind of in the sense that it would have been nice to have him around because he does bring a veteran presence. He had a resurgence with Yakupov, and I know I think Hater Baton pointed out that he had a huge resurgence with Yakupov as well as Yakupov having a resurgence with Roy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Yakupov found his confidence again and isn't being coached by Eakins. So it's probably going to be. You have to
Yeah.
look at it as was it Eakins or was it Roy and Nelson that improved him? Or sorry, was it Roy or was it Nelson that improved him? And I think it's a bit of both. And we'll see that improvement again this season. Roy was the sixth centerman at this point. Like you have RNH is undisputed first right now. McDavid and Lander are second and third. Gordon is fourth. You have Draisaitl, who would be the call up. You have Yakimov and Kyra and Chase coming up. Like it's kind of that thing where yeah, we could keep Roy, but he'd either be playing wing or McDavid be playing wing or Lander be playing wing. And as good as it is to have centermen, you don't really need an aging centerman who had a good season but isn't necessarily going to produce a crap ton of points unless he's being fed. And
Yeah, that's kind of where he's at now, isn't he? He's like, how old is he? Like 32, 33?
he's getting up there. I'll double check it, but I'm pretty sure he's over 30 at least.
I mean, he had a couple good seasons there with Buffalo, but I think he's really petered off in the last
I think he
couple.
was coming off his worst. He's 32, but he was coming off his worst season, I think, in Buffalo, and the Sabres were pretty happy to get rid of him. And I remember them being a lot of Sabres fans, especially on our hockey, were more surprised that the Oilers fans loved him so much because he had a reputation of being kind of lazy and lackadaisical in his own end. And he's the other side of that. I mean, if you look at it, he's really not a very good defensive forward.
No,
And
he's pretty small. He's probably definitely on the downside of his career, and I'm sure that he realizes that himself now. So he's probably super bummed about it, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't know. I think that he would like to come back, but at the same time, he probably wasn't expecting to.
no, and I think he'll get a contract somewhere. Like after the season he had, he'll get a contract somewhere, likely somewhere with a lot of young players that need a veteran guy who I mean, if you look at what Yakupov did under him, his goals against his points per game jumped and everything. So I could see him going and signing with a team like Buffalo or Arizona or Carolina, one of the lower teams that need a veteran to help them down the center. Especially I
Yeah.
think Arizona. Arizona will be drafting. I think it's either they're going to be Strom or Marner likely, but they might take Hannafin. In which case, I think Roy's a good fit in that case. Even if they don't take him anyway, I think because I mean, what Arcobello and Gagne as your top two centers, like
Yeah,
that.
that's not gonna work.
No, that's not a good recipe for success.
Wow. Yeah, when you say it like that,
He'll find his place somewhere. He'll find a place somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, we got
now or
yeah, we'll go with Sub Chef. So,
You start. I don't know what to make of this guy.
really? Okay, so the rundown is that we signed him to a 3-year ELC. So no real money invested, no real risk. You get to see him perform. Um, he's easily one of the most skilled left wingers on our team right away. Yeah, not obviously on the team yet, but he's going to be one of our better left wings moving forward. He has ridiculous hands. He's a big guy. He skates hard. He's a two-way forward apparently too, which is huge, and he's got a ridiculous shot. And I think what it was is that there was and the part of it is he wanted to come play here. Like he played the year in the KHL. He did really well in the KHL, which is a notoriously hard to score in league. And then he said, okay, well, there was the back and forth where it's, are you going to stay in the KHL? Or are you going to come to Canada? And in the end of the day, he signed a 3-year ELC. I think it's huge. He'll probably start in the AHL. I don't see him beating out the guys we have in the system for the left wing or whoever we may acquire. That could be one of Chiarelli's interests in the next couple months. But I see him potentially being a call up and beating a lot of the players in the AHL on the depth chart within the first few months. Like he's a very, very talented left winger.
Who do they have at left wing down on the farm now? Because I'm thinking like with the Oilers, there's Hall, there's Pouliot there. He's obviously not going to beat out any of those two. So then he's fighting for bottom 6 minutes, and I don't really know. Is he that sort of player?
Not like I think what it'll be more of the thing where right now he's going to play in the AHL for at least maybe a year and he'll be a call up. So it'll be one of those things where somebody gets injured, then he goes up. Otherwise he stays down on the farm and improves. And then in a year he pushes for camp. It'll be kind of like that thing where it's probably third left wing. I mean, right now, if you look at it, Lander and Purcell, I guess, depends on how you arrange lines, but Lander, Purcell are top three. And I mean, 4 good lines right now. We have a minute crunching fourth. We have the first 2 that are just ridiculously overpowered with potential for offense, and then the third line is kind of that one where you might just chuck them out when they're playing against a second or first line that may be tired or wants to get a matchup for one of the other 2 lines and be effective. I think he could play that role. I mean, if you look at Yakimov is a massive Russian player who improved, and I think he could be our future third or probably fourth line centerman because apparently he's really, really good defensively.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing as well. So if he can carry that up to the NHL level, that would be good. You know, going back to Slepyshev, like I'm just looking at their depth chart here now.
Yeah. Zotto's gone. So we have Combs, Hamilton, Eager's gone. This thing's old. What am I looking at?
Yeah. What is Ryan Hamilton still with the organization?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so Ryan Hamilton's listed.
Ryan Hamilton's right wing.
Oh, I'm looking at the left wing. He's got him he's listed as left wing.
Oh, okay. I'm on Oilers Nation, so
I am on Edmonton Journal. Well, whatever. So Hamilton, Pakarainen is there.
All right, for Pakarainen.
Mitch Moroz is still there. Curtis Hamilton is probably getting let go. Yeah,
I see.
Step in probably right away.
Yeah, I think Ryan Hamilton would be really the only one that could be ahead of him on the depth chart to start with. I think Slepyshev moves ahead of him pretty quick.
Hopefully,
yeah.
If he's as good as they say, he was captain of the Russian World Junior team a couple years back, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. He was pretty good in that tournament too.
Almost positive, yeah.
I think he was. It was a team with Yakupov, I think.
I want to say it was the year after because that was the 2013 one was the lockout one. Yakupov, I'm 99% sure was captain that year because he was captain that year, and then that was after they did that summertime tournament, the 4 games between Canada and Russia. Do you remember that?
I don't think I watched it, to be honest. I've been working a lot during the summer, so.
Okay. Every time, like the games they were super close, and then Ryan Strome scored in overtime of the 4th game. I remember that very well. And anyway, Yakupov was he was captain of that team. That was the summer of 2012, or 2013. He must have been captain of that team. And then 2014 was Slepyshev the captain. I'm going
Potentially,
to
but
talk
he.
myself in circles here.
I don't know the background too well, and I'm afraid should have done more research on that. That's something to work on in the future.
For
More
sure.
research. Um,
We're at 30
yeah,
minutes already. Awesome.
yeah. So we won't do the bonus stuff, I guess today. So and then the goaltending situation. We obviously talked about Talbot last time. And, I know I think he's the favorite for everybody in the podcast.
Yeah.
Now because Talbot's so sought after, do you think if we don't get him, who's your second? I know I mentioned Bernier and Elliott. There's Leonard, Anderson. Probably, I don't think Anderson gets moved. There's Gibson, Lack or Markstrom. I think they're moving towards Lack on that front. Um, I don't know who else would be available, but who's your second pick
Behind Talbot,
behind Talbot?
I think I would have to go with Bernier. I think Bernier, he's still working on consistency a little bit, but overall, I think he's a pretty damn good goaltender. We were talking about this a little bit before, but he's played over 100 games with the Maple Leafs. He's got a save percentage of .918 while he's with them. So,
Yep.
with a defense that atrocious, like that defense is Oilers bad, honestly. And a
Yeah, a lot of
save
times.
percentage is it's nothing to sneeze at. So I think Bernier is a pretty solid option. I just don't think that Toronto is going to let him go very easily. And that's the thing, because their only other option is Reimer. And Reimer, I mean, they've been trying to push him out of town for years now. So I can't imagine them doing an about face and just letting go of Bernier for nothing. So
I think part of it might be that Toronto's in a similar situation to where we are, where it's obviously it's a seller's market for goaltending this year. So
mhm.
I think Toronto would be leaning towards selling Bernier simply because they'll get a better return. Reimer hasn't done as well. Reimer's more of a backup. Going backup going forward, as Bernier could jump to starter.
Mhm.
For me, he's my pick after Talbot as well. Like you said, he's at 113 games, a 918 and a 278 save goals against. Sorry, and I think with going back to Toronto, I think if they sell Bernier, because obviously there's Niemi, there's Talbot, Leonard, Markstrom, Lack. I don't think the Oilers have a chance at Lack or Markstrom, whoever moves, because we're in the same division, and if they do, they're going to jack up the price so high we're not going to want to pay it.
It's just
Even
going to
if
Schneider all over again.
Yeah, and the Flames might be selling Ramo because they have Ortio coming up. Or I don't think I said that right.
Money Ortio.
Yeah, so you have him coming up. They have Gibson might be going, but I think Anaheim might hold on to him anyway because he's a great future prospect. Jones was rumored, but I don't know if he's going to go for a lot, but he can move. So there's all these goalies, and if you look at it, they've had their time with Bernier, and they're probably going to say, okay, well, if we're doing a fire sale, it's better for us to acquire good picks off that and then use whatever we can to get another goalie that may be better than to stick with him going forward. And I think that's the thing is that Bernie's not going to be happy as a backup role. Reimer, I think, is more suited for a backup position.
Sorry, you said Reimer better suited for backup position than
Yeah, Reimer. I think Reimer is more likely to play backup than Bernier.
100%. Like Reimer is like a 1B on a good day.
Yeah.
Like he's not a starter, but he's a good backup, and that's what he is. And the Oilers don't need more backups. They've
No.
already got one with Scrivens, so
So I think it's either Bernier or for me Bernier or Elliott. I know we had mentioned Elliott before as well when we were recording, and we looked at his stats real quick. And he's at 139 games played. This is with St. Louis. He has a 923 and a 200 or two goals against, which I
yeah.
mean is even more ridiculous stats. That was also helped by his absolutely unreal year where he won the Jennings and was in the voting for the Hart and the Vezina. He didn't come close, I think, to winning. I think he was fifth in Vezina and 15th in the Hart voting. But I mean, that's ridiculous still. Like that season was unreal. But Elliott's another good option. The only issue with me is that he doesn't like St. Louis, but he's also gonna not come cheap because he has a good contract. He's still a solid goaltender, and St. Louis is gonna want him as a backup because he's a ridiculous backup if you look at him that way.
Yeah, he's super good as a backup. He's not even that old either. Like he's
I
what,
think
30?
I think he was 27 or 28.
Uh,
Maybe
okay,
maybe
yeah, I'm
maybe
just
in
googling
those
it
ones.
here now. Yeah, he turned 30 on April 9th, so he's 30 now.
Okay. Yeah.
So, like 3 or 4 more years in there somewhere, hopefully. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. No, I could see him, and that's the other option. Is like going with a slightly older goaltender would be that you have Lorikainen and Brossois who are now have competition. Actually, speaking of goalies, and I know we're gonna cover this. We're gonna for everybody watching. I think it's just Doc and someone else. I think his computers is watching. So I get computers shooting. But we're doing a draft lottery special. I guess we should announce that. I'm not sure what date that's going to be released at, but we're going to be doing that before, not draft lottery, draft day. So, but I want to cover this real quick because it's kind of relevant. Do you take Samsonov in the draft, or do you go for a player? And like we obviously looked at his stats. There was a stats posted on the Oilers sub the other day. So do you go with Samsonov or do you go with a player?
Um, 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 um. I go with a player. Yeah.
Yeah.
Drafting goalies is it's voodoo at the best of times. It seems like I don't know. I don't trust the Oilers to get that one right. To be honest with you, I would go with the player. Probably a defenseman. I don't know exactly which one. I was looking at that graph that was posted on r/Edmonton Oilers today. It was a pretty nifty graph. Oliver,
Samsonov was at the top of that, eh?
yeah, he was most likely to be remaining.
No, most likely to be picked, I think.
Well, now I got to look that up.
While you look that up, I'll just explain my rationale here. So I know Hater Bateman mentioned uh, that the second time I mentioned today. You mentioned that drafting the issue with the Oilers in the past is we don't often draft goalies high, and a lot of the goalies that are good goalies in the NHL right now were picked high. There's a few, exceptions, but most of the goalies were drafted in the first or second round, and we haven't drafted a goalie in the first two rounds in a long time. Actually, since I think it was Dubnik was drafted in the second round, and he turned out fairly good. I mean, he could be going. There's that whole contract dispute with Minnesota, and I think it was potentially San Jose maybe in the running right now.
Uh-huh.
So he was an average goaltender. So it's kind of that thing where it's if a goalie's ranked that high, do you take the risk? I don't think I'd go after Mackenzie Blackwood. I don't like his stats very well. He's ridiculously athletic. I mean, if you look at his combine crap, he's
Uh-huh.
unreal. But I think Samsonov, yeah, for me, it's more of those things where there's too many good players available this year. I think to draft a goalie, and I mean, a lot of people might get annoyed at me saying that because that's kind of it's kind of a stupid thing where it's like, well, if there's a good goalie available, why don't you take good goalies? Because I think you can more likely get an established goaltender than you can a defenseman, and we need defensemen, especially right defensemen. And so I think picking a defenseman is a better bet. But with that said, if he's available at 33, or we can move up from 33 by not giving up much at all, then I think Samsonov is a good pick.
I find that goalies rarely garner their worth in trades.
Yeah.
So I feel like we would be able to get a goalie on the cheap a lot easier than we would be able to get a defenseman on the cheap.
Oh yeah,
That's
no, that's absolutely true. I mean, there's a few straight up where it's like Luongo was traded for second round pick and Markstrom. I think it was a
um,
former second round pick in Markstrom.
Markstrom and Sean Matthias.
Yeah,
That's who it was. And Matthias is like he's an NHL player, but he is a dime a dozen NHL player.
yeah. And then there was Schneider was traded for ninth overall, which turned into Bull Horvat. I
Yeah,
think that's one of the higher draft picks I've seen for a goalie in the last long while.
yeah.
So goalies don't trade that well. It's
No,
just the fact. Did you look at the graph by the way?
yeah, I got it up here. So yeah, I was right.
Damn it.
Ilya Samson, obviously, he's the only goalie on the chart, though. So I mean, take it with a grain of salt. So 99.49% chance that he will be available at number 16. So it starts at Ivan Provorov, 0.24% chance he'll be available, and then it goes up.
Percent chance or p-value? Because I think it was something posted earlier. It might have been on hockey. I'm confusing my graphs now.
Oh, I'm looking at probability here, and everything.
Okay, yeah.
Something.
Never mind.
So yeah. Ilya Samsonov, and it goes down from there. Oliver Kylington, who I personally really like. Nicholas Roy, Daniel Sprong. He's that Dutch kid who wants to be Canadian. Jansen Harkins, Jeremy Roy, Paul Bittner, who I don't like.
I don't know. So that's my issue. I'm gonna have to do a lot of research for our draft day one because I don't know a lot about the prospects. I've never really known a lot about prospects outside of the top 5 because those are the one concentrate on the most. But I mean, if we're doing this, I'll have to really concentrate on that. Yeah, probably not bad either. Okay, so we're at on my clock. We're at almost 40 minutes. So do we want to wrap it up pretty quick? We'll do one more question.
Yeah. Well, let's just wrap it up here. Quick hits.
Right. Thanks for joining us. I know it was kind of impromptu and out of the blue. We did not do that on purpose. We're having some issues with our software. So we figured that out. Did I think better quality today? I think Arun's internet just shit the bed last week. I think that's primarily what happened. But at any rate, thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next time. And yeah, hope you have a good one. Bye.
Deuces.